Hey all, so today we're going to be looking at B2 3.3, which is movement, and we're going to be talking about how muscles contract. So that's going to be looking at page 293 to 297 in our textbook, Oxford textbook. So movement is universal to life. Within organisms, all organisms are moving to some extent. So for example, digestion of some sort, all organisms are digesting, and that requires muscular movement. Um, Additionally, some organisms may be moving. That's called locomotion. The ones that do move are called motile organisms, such as birds. And then we have stationary organisms like coral that would be considered sessile. But there are still organisms like coral that are sessile, that are digesting things. Those might not be occurring with muscles, but it does require cellular action. Muscles can only exert force when they contract, so they cannot provide the energy needed to relax a muscle, which means we need an opposing muscle to relax the original muscle. So, like if I contract my bicep, I am not going to be able to relax this without using my tricep. And those are called antagonist muscles. The tricep is going to provide the energy for me to relax my bicep. And the way that that works is that my tricep provides the energy to lengthen the opposing muscle by pulling on titin. Titin is the longest polypeptide, and it connects myosin, which is in the center here, to the Z line. And it stores potential energy when it is stretched. So when it's stretched out, then it has potential energy, and the myosin is going to move actin on the Z lines so that the Z lines come closer together. And then that is where titin has no potential energy left, and it needs to be lengthened back out using the antagonistic muscle. So antagonistic muscles are going to provide the energy to stretch, tighten, and lengthen the original muscle, which would be, for example, my bicep. So muscle structure, myofibrils are the main structure of muscle. They are made of myofilaments, and those are broken into sarcomeres, which are sections of myofibrils. And so this whole thing here, so each of these is called a myofibril, and they are broken up into sarcomeres. And so you can see this pink line on either side, and then the blue line in the middle. This is the M line. These are the Z lines, and one Z line to Z line is a sarcomere. And so each of these myofibrils is made up of myofilaments. These are each of these little strands in here. And this whole thing is a muscle filament. So the dark band is going to be around the Z line. Sorry, dark band is going to be around the M line, and then light band will be around the Z line. And inside each of these myofibrils and myofilaments, we have myosin and actin. And those are different kinds of proteins which are going to contract and relax to move muscles. And additionally, inside our muscle fibers, we have many nuclei and mitochondria. And then we have something called the sarcoplasmic reticulum. We have a lot of nuclei and mitochondria because we need a lot of energy and a lot of proteins to be made. And so we need signaling from the cells so that the muscles can contract all together. And additionally, we need a lot of energy for that. So then we have this yellow webbing here that's covering all of the myofibrils and myofilaments. And this is called the sarcoplasmic reticulum, which is going to release calcium to start muscle contraction. So this is signaled to by a neuron, and the neuron releases a neurotransmitter called acetylcholine that then signals to the sarcoplasmic reticulum to release calcium. And then the calcium does some things to actin and that allows myosin to connect to actin. So one motor neuron, a motor neuron is a neuron that sends a signal that acts as a motor. So it's going to, like motor being movement. And so it's going to trigger a muscular reaction. So one motor neuron has many muscle fibers, and all of those are interconnected with muscle fibers linked to other motor neurons. And so that allows muscles to contract simultaneously when they are messaged to by a motor neuron. So M lines and Z lines, and we just talked about this, but the M line is in the middle. This is actually where the myosin is. That's this pink band here. And you can see here, this is the dark band. It looks dark. And then we have the Z lines out here, and they have this light area around them. So this is called the light band. And the Z lines actually pull towards the center as myosin works on the blue stuff, which is actin, to pull the actin towards the center. And there's 6 strands of actin around myosin. So it kind of looks like 4, but then you can see here, there's another one over here. So there's 6 attached onto the Z line here surrounding one strand of myosin. And myosin is interspaced between actin and it forms the M line, which is the dark band. You can remember that because myosin starts with an M and the M line starts with an M. Myosin has little heads on it, and those little heads are going to attach onto actin, forming something called a cross bridge to pull the actin towards each other from the Z line. And that process uses ATP. So when muscles contract, the distance between the Z lines is going to decrease, and many myosin heads acting collectively, attaching onto the actin filaments and pulling can exert quite a strong force. And so if these Z lines pull closer together, then you will end up with less of a white band showing or light band showing. So this is an image of the motor neuron affecting the sarcoplasmic reticulum. And so skeletal muscle is made of striated muscle fibers. That's muscle fibers that have this dark light band pattern. And when when triggered by a motor neuron, they contract. And so the motor neuron sends a signal, and it sends acetylcholine into this space here, and the space signals to the sarcoplasmic reticulum, or the acetylcholine signals to the sarcoplasmic reticulum, hey, release calcium. So what happens is calcium gets released. It binds onto these little proteins on actin. These little proteins, and we're going to look at this in the next slide, but these are called troponin. And then this little fiber around here, because of the calcium binding, sucks up. And so this is called tropomyosin, this protein here. And when the tropomyosin pulls up, then it allows binding sites on actin to be shown. And then these little heads on myosin can attach onto actin. Many fibers across areas are connected to one neuron. And so one of those neurons could be called also a motor unit. And a motor unit is activated when that happens. All the fibers are going to contract simultaneously to achieve coordinated contraction with as few motor neurons as possible. So only one has to signal, not all of them. So the sarcoplasmic reticulum is releasing calcium when it's activated by that neuron. And you can again see on here, the pink little protein here is troponin, and the green is the calcium, and then this little pink fiber here is the tropomyosin. So calcium triggers troponin to move tropomyosin. So tropomyosin pulls away. And when this happens, binding sites are activated, are exposed on actin, and that's going to allow the head of myosin to suck onto it, and now it's attached to actin in something called a cross bridge, and it's going to pull the actin inwards in these tiny little steps. And so you can see here there's ADP, and a phosphate group is released, still some ADP here, ADP is released, and a new ATP comes along, and it's going to break that cross bridge, releasing the head, actually pulling the head back down, so it's ready to snap back up and attach onto actin and pull it in one more time. So the ATP is going to break the cross bridge, and this process is going to happen repeatedly. And then when the head reattaches, this is called the pulling process of myosin pulling the actin, is called the power stroke. So to summarize, and there's this a fantastic little GIF here describing all of this. GIF, sorry. Myosin pulls on actin to pull it towards the M line, and it's going to contract a muscle fiber. And so you can see here calcium is attaching onto troponin, and then tropomyosin pulls away. And then the binding sites are exposed, and the heads attach, and power stroke, pull. This is triggered when the sarcoplasmic releases calcium. Titin connects myosin to the Z line and allows muscles to relax when the antagonistic muscle contracts. And a motor unit includes many muscle fibers, and when they're triggered, they're all going to contract together. All right, so that is it for this video. Hopefully I can figure out how to stop this video. There we go. And until next time.